A Louisiana parish is taking national security into its own hands, arming its own militia in case of a terror attack or civil unrest.
We want to involve the public and the community to get involved with law enforcement in order to better secure Bossier Parish as a whole. And if we accomplish that by using these volunteers, we'll be ahead of the curve when it comes to fighting Islamic extremism. If we become self-sufficient, then we won't have to rely on outside resources to take care of us in an emergency situation. We can handle it ourselves.
Zach Roth is a senior reporter for TalkingPointsMemo.com. Zach, the parish is concerned about Islamic extremism. I mean, what are the odds of an Islamic extremist attack in a rural area like Bossier Parish, and what are they doing?
I don't know what the odds are. They say that there are homegrown terrorists in our midst. And actually, in speaking to the public information officer, he suggested that there had been in past years some evidence that there were homegrown terrorists in Bossier Parish, although he stressed that that was no longer such a concern. What they're doing is, they say, training volunteers in hand-to-hand combat techniques. It's not quite clear whether the idea is for them to take on the terrorists directly in the event of an attack, or whether the idea is to protect against looters and rioters and the chaos that an attack would cause. But they say they just want to be prepared.
And Zach, in your reporting on this town called Bossier, you say that it's mostly retired police officers, about 200 of them. They're armed with shotguns, riot shields, and a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on what the mayor is calling a war wagon. Exactly how are they supposed to be using this war wagon?
Well, they stressed that, you know, the war wagon would only come into play in the most extreme circumstances, and also that the war wagon would never be used to target their own citizens. Presumably it would just be used to take on the terrorists. If you look at pictures of similar armored vehicles, it's kind of like a huge monster truck. So it's unclear how that would help take on most terrorist attacks, but I guess they want to be ready for any eventuality.
And is there anybody that says this is just a crazy waste of money to be spending money on a war wagon and all this equipment for a remote parish like this to fight terrorists?
Well, actually, they say they already had the war wagon, which sort of raises a whole bunch of other questions about what they felt they needed it before this plan. The other thing is, what people are sort of raising eyebrows about is that it's called Operation Exodus, which is from the book of Exodus, where the Israelites had to wander for days in the desert and needed to be self-sufficient. So and they say we need to be self-sufficient in just the same way. So there's almost a kind of survivalist ethic going on, and in fact this has been talked about in the last day or so on survivalist message boards and kind of applauded by some of those types.
Frightening, frightening story indeed. But Zach Roth, senior reporter for TalkingPointsMemo.com. Zach, great reporting on this. Thanks so much for contributing to our show today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And again, it's TalkingPointsMemo.com.